I always call the people that I work with performers. I think performer means that you are performing and not necessarily that you are a professional actor. That's how I solve the issue of calling people non-actors, or sometimes people call them normal people, as if actors wouldn't be normal, but something else. So I prefer to call them performers because, in fact, what they do, even if they are sharing experiences or moments of their lives or autobiographical facts, they are performing. Creating the casting of one of my plays means building up a community, because this group didn't exist before and it's created for the purpose of doing an artistic project, but it goes much beyond this artistic project. So, for example, when I started to work for Minefield, the piece with the veterans of the Malvinas Falklands War, the whole effort was to bring together these former enemies, one from the British side and some from the Argentinian side, to tell the story of the war from both sides. And this project, in fact, lasted 5 years. We did a video installation, we did a play, and then we did a film. And the group goes on. The group is still, they have a WhatsApp group, and I receive every 2 days a new message of a new grandson of someone who was born, of another news of somebody else. So the community that is built around the artistic project continues even further than the project. And this happened in almost all the works I did. Also in Futureland, the group of unaccompanied minors, they are a group of people who support each other and still are important to each other. We will see what happened with the group of Lingua Madre, but from what I know, they are still a lot in contact and making music together. And they will, of course, when we have the opening in October, I hope, then still continue with this relationship. I mean, what the people share in this working process is so intense, because during 2 months, basically, they are in this kind of surreal therapy group where they share experiences and perform parts of their lives and sing together and cry and shout. And that it's so intense what they had been through, that this brings them together in a way that nothing else can do. It's something very special. Of course, then people can also take their ways, and some people would stay more or less connected, but it's like the experience of the work together make this bond between them. It's not just happen, it's a lot of effort to make it happen, because you have to bring together these people, and they have to believe in a common idea. And there is a lot of problems also to create these groups. Like, it's not, they are not like utopian communities in the sense that there is no conflict. There are a lot of conflicts, and the utopian thing is the fact that we try to solve them with art and music and storytelling and hearing each other and so on. But in fact, these are groups that had been through a lot. Sometimes also people leave the groups. So there is a lot of things that happen during the time of the work. And yes, this is part of my work, but they also know that I am an artist. So I'm there to make an artistic project that represents them and the problematic that we are working on, and not a psychologist or any kind of therapist. I do art, and they know that, and we work on this basis. I define myself as an artist, not as an activist, but I understand that there is many overlappings between artist, therapist, activist, social worker, and so on. So being an artist in the kind of work I do also touch many other things. What I think is that if the art is good, then it's political in the way that it should be. You know, that it's not separated from the art. The mission of it is not separated from the artistic strength of it. I don't believe that there is an artwork that is political and engaged, but then is as artwork in itself, in its form, is either conservative or or not, it doesn't go further enough. So I think these two things go together for me, which is not for everyone the same. And maybe some people would think that that I'm more this than that, but that's how I feel myself about my work. Yeah, I mean that I'm interested in the form, not only in the mission. So not only in like bringing awareness or changing something, but I'm interested in the form and in how we can expand also artistic forms in unpredictable ways. But it's something that it's also a struggle as an artist, that you don't stay with the things you already found, because of course you get used to some things that work. Then you ask yourself, why do I'm staying with this? Why do I not go further? What should I do to go further? But I also think that the work I do is also related very much to with institutions and with how to bring into cultural institutions people and problematics that are always somehow outside of it. So I think that sometimes this would be my activist role in terms of like changing this situation in the artistic institutions themselves. Yeah, I think my work, my activist work is also to transform things inside of these cultural institutions and to bring subjects, people, problematics that would otherwise stay a bit outside of the radar. And I think in the case of Lingua Madre, for example, I realized how strong it was to have people on stage saying in first person, I had aborted, I did an abortion on that hospital. The hospital offered to bury the fetus, and I said no, because this is just part of my body. It's not an entity, a human being. So I don't want to bury him. And these kind of sentences from the theater stage, being said from the theater stage to the community, I think are very strong. Also, it's very strong when the performers talk about surrogacy. There is a gay couple that speak about how they did surrogacy in the States and the legal problems they have with their kids to be recognized as parents of their kids, to gay men who can't be recognized by the state as parents because in Italy, surrogacy is not accepted, it's not legal. So they take a risk, you know, like the people on stage take a risk to say these things from the stage. And that creates something, I think, that is much more than in general talking about these problematics, but that there is people in first person who said, I did it, I'm fighting for this, and I want you to hear it and not to look aside. I feel influenced by everyone. I see a piece and I see an artwork that I'm interested in, and it strikes me and it makes me think and it makes me put in myself in question, the way I work, the things I do. There are many artists. I don't know. I wouldn't like to make a list because then I would forget people and then I would feel bad. But yes, I mean, I don't know. There is from Argentina, there is all the community of people that I had been working with from, I don't know, Federico Leon to Mariano Pensotti to, I don't know, the CRAP group, which is a dancing group from musicians like Ulises Conti. In Europe, of course, there is Rimini Protocol with whom I collaborate. There is Dries Verhoeven, an artist that I also like a lot, and we share a lot of thinking, even if we never work together. So many, like, I don't know, from Force Entertainment to Gob Squad, from, I don't know, Milo Rao to, I don't know, to whom. There are so many artists I admire, and I think of from Milo Rao to Susanne Kennedy, who have nothing to do. I admire them and I feel influenced by them when I see their work. So there are many, many artists, and I will forget many when I'm just saying this list, random list. Yeah, I feel very much a person that absorbs a lot from the things around. For example, I forgot to mention them, but they were my teachers. I mean, they were my playwright teachers. They were together with me when I was studying. I was doing this workshop for playwrights, also by Veronese and Rafael and many other wonderful writers that are also directors. So yeah, they are also part of my world. I like very much on this piece of Brecht the fact that what he says, and it's very, I think it's very central in my work. In this play, there are, in the Three Penny Opera, there are the prostitutes, the beggars, delinquents, or the robbers, I don't know how to call them. And the beggars, there is this enterprise of beggars, let's say a company of beggars, that is run by a man who decide what is your costume and what is your story. So he doesn't, when the beggars come, you don't take your own costume, let's say your own clothes and your own story, you take the story of someone else. That's what he distributes the stories. And for me, that's exactly, it's brilliant, because what he says in this text, this owner of this beggar company is, when you tell the truth, you don't get compassion, you get rejection. When the naked truth, you have to make it a story. So basically, what the owner of the beggars company is to give the people a story that they can tell to get money, so to get compassion. Because he said, like, compassion doesn't come from the naked truth, it comes from the storytelling. I think that's, for me, very central in the work I do. Sometimes people feel like, but this is just like people telling their stories, or this is just this naked truth, that you're doing. You're just like putting people, exposing people, manipulating people into saying things that, no, they are telling a story. They are really, like, they are performing, they are telling a story, they are artists on stage. They are not, it's not just like this naked truth, what they do.
Per quanto mi riguarda, colpo di fulmine per Atlas des Communismus, che è il lavoro che poi abbiamo scelto di presentare per avviare un percorso poi produttivo con lei. Oltre all'attenzione per la sua capacità di indagare e riflettere sulla contemporaneità, e nel caso poi di Atlas des Communismus si poneva anche il problema del rapporto con la storia, del superamento della dimensione ideologica, quindi c'erano tante cose che si agitavano all'interno di quel lavoro. Un dato che mi colpiva e ci colpiva era quello del lavoro sulla dimensione della comunità, sul coinvolgimento della comunità nei processi creativi e sul rapporto con quelli che Gerardo Guccini definisce gli attori mondo. Un lavoro come quello della Arias si presta particolarmente all'incontro, voi per la sapienza con cui Lola riesce, a mio giudizio, a lavorare nel caleidoscopio della composizione e scomposizione proprio del linguaggio rappresentativo e della sua straordinaria abilità nel giocare su più piani, sia anche per questa grande carica comunicativa e non so come definirla, di apertura e di grande simpatia, fra virgolette, che riesce a creare e all'interno del gruppo di lavoro. L'ho constatato anche vedendo i suoi lavori non solo da spettatore, ma seguendoli anche in fase di gestazione, per l'appunto in una situazione veramente complicatissima come è stato portare verso la scena lingua madre mentre avevamo le restrizioni da coronavirus in atto. Voi anche per l'immediatezza, pur nella grande raffinatezza di costruzione e di speculazione che c'è nei suoi spettacoli, la grande immediatezza che riesce in realtà a trovare sul piano dell'articolazione della performance.
sometimes it's difficult to explain how you get to the final text in the work I do. And sometimes people think that the performers just improvise this text as they say it then at the end in the piece. So that I just did some cut and paste from people who improvise something, and then I cut it and then I put it there, and then another one improvised something or told me something, and it's just like this cut and paste from interviews and improvisations. But in fact, the whole process is a very long process because I do a whole phase of interviews, long interviews with each performer, that this is alone. And then we do together these improvisations that are like long improvisations with everyone with different tasks and different situations. And then there is a team transcribing every improvisation and every word that is being said. And when it's in another language, then there is other person translating it. And then with all these transcriptions, that sometimes it's like hundreds of pages, then I start to build up the scenes. So it's a whole like work of archaeological work of reconstructing voices and stories that are like piles of transcriptions that I have to bring together. And this bringing together is not only the text, but of course it's the text together with the music, together with the video, together with the action on stage. So basically this is a whole process of writing the piece, but writing it also in terms of the whole script of what we need on the other layers of the stage, the video, the music. This is like sometimes a difficult process to understand from outside, I think, even because even for the team sometimes, because we spend like sometimes like 6 weeks just improvising and producing material, and then the people start to get nervous. When is the text coming? When is the text coming? I don't understand where you are going, because it's like I need to first do this whole like accumulation of material, and then it starts. And when it starts to be from a text, then it starts to get a form. I started my work in Argentina, totally independent from any kind of institution and from any kind of state support. I grew up as an artist who started directing and writing my own pieces and doing them in spaces that were totally anarchistic spaces. So I know very much what it means to do the theater play in the living room or in whatever garage with the stuff you bring from home, and you do the posters, you distribute them. I was never, I was never raised in the system of you go to the art school and then you go out and you receive the subsidy and then you do your first piece. I started doing things very fast. With 23, I had the first opening and it was everything done like this. So, and I worked a lot in Argentina, where the context is really hard. I mean, to get subsidies to make a work. Even when I started to be invited by the cultural center of the university, they would give me $1,000 to make a theater piece. And then I had to handle this absurd budget. So, of course, when I started to work with bigger and European institutions, of course, also allowed in a way, because I had this institutional support to get further also in the research and to bring people that would have been very difficult to bring without these institutions behind me, because I had to do longer research, because I had to reach places where as an independent artist, they would usually close the door. I think the theaters that invite me now, they already know a little bit what they are doing in a way, like the risk they are taking or the kind of conflict they might have, or the kind of time they have to spend, or the money in research, which is something nobody considers as part of the artistic work in a theater. You have 2 months to rehearse. What is research? That's the thing I always find myself discussing about with like the administrators of the theater. What is research? Like, you write a play, you come, you rehearse 6 weeks, and that's it. That's a bit how this works for me. But I always was an artist that considered that half of my time was producing, researching, organizing, bringing people together. It's not, it was always like very much involved in all these things. Also, like in doing budgets, in fighting for getting money. I also know what are the difficulties of the institution, and I'm not like the artists that think I have to do this and I don't care. I think it's difficult to call the theater I do like one genre, let's say theater of the real, documentary theater. If you want to name it somehow in this way, it's okay. I don't think that there is, I think there is a lot of people who are working in this in between genres, in between this documentary thing and this more performatic thing and this more. And I don't think that there are like ghettos or like festivals that respond only to one, let's say, one wave. I see that it's pretty much entangled, or I don't know, bonded or related. Of course, in certain scenes. Of course, there are a lot of state theaters and festivals that I have never been and I will never be because they do something else and it's okay. But in general, I would say that it's not like film. I remember like when I started when I started to do film, like film and show my films in a film festival, because before I did film, but it was inside of theater or inside of an exhibition context. I was always very surprised by this, like, you know, you go into these categories. Either you do documentary film or you do fiction film, and you have different festivals and different prices for the different genres. And I think in the theater, yeah, there is not this genre thing. I think still like documentary theater is still like a smaller branch that is expanding. And I think the problem is that sometimes people think it's just a wave, you know, like something that is now a la mode, but it's not. I think it's just something like it's a genre. It's like documentary film, or like it's just part of the artistic possibilities that you can have. You can have actors, you can have performers that come from other fields, you can have pieces that are written, you can have pieces that are coming from an investigation or a research on a certain topic. So I think this is expanding much more now, these boundaries, and I think it's good.
È a tutti gli effetti un teatro della realtà, cioè usa degli elementi di realtà costantemente nelle sue operazioni artistiche, è trasversale, nel senso che lei stessa non si definisce solo regista, ma si definisce autrice, artista visiva, cineasta in qualche modo, e sovrappone l'utilizzo di elementi di realtà così come sono, quindi in modo quasi documentaristico, però una visione drammaturgica, una costruzione drammaturgica, poetica, artistica fortissima. Cioè la sua arte sta nella giustaposizione di elementi di realtà e nel combinare questi elementi crea una realtà diversa che è completamente aderente alla realtà, ma è una narrazione altra e in qualche modo ne esce il concetto della realtà come narrazione, cioè tutte le realtà che noi affrontiamo sono narrazioni, anche quelle che ci vengono presentate dal telegiornale, e la realtà teatrale è una realtà parallela, una narrazione alternativa. Per cui, per rispondere alla domanda perché Lola, è perché davvero nel momento in cui l'abbiamo scovata rappresentava un po' tutto quello che Zona K voleva fare.
I never see it as things that are opposing each other. I think reality and fiction, or reality and theater, are not like things that collide against each other, but that you can bring some reality or some authenticity, which is also an effect. It's not yeah, you bring an effect of reality. You don't bring reality. You have a person who experienced something, and this gives an effect of reality. This is not an actor, it's a person, and it's telling me the story. So I feel it in another way, in my body, in my perception of it. But the fact that they can play and perform, and as you said, this spectacular aspect of it, I think it also gives a freedom and enlarge the experience. So the fact that they can play music and play with each other and be characters in someone else's life puts them in a position where they can play with their stories. not just be the witnesses or the storytellers, but the ones who play it. And in this playing, they find the distance they need. And I think that's also very important. Sometimes people think, but it's not too personal. No, it's not too personal, because they found the distance through the play in the scene, through the whole machinery of the theater. They find this distance. Like everybody of us knows where are our limits. You don't need to be an actor to say, this is too much for me, or this I cannot say, or this I don't want to say, or this I don't want to do. So I try to be very clear and with the people that of what are we going to share, what is the thing that we are doing together. And I always speak on about everything, so that they know, okay, we are looking for this in the scene, and that's what we are doing, that's what I believe, and blah, 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 so that they know the context. It's not that I throw them into an improvisation and they don't know why they do it and what are they doing and so on. And they can always say, no, I don't want to do this scene, or I don't want to do this improvisation. Or when the text come, they can say always, I don't like this text, and it should be written otherwise, and I don't want to say it. So they have a lot of participation in the construction. It's a very collaborative process. So I think that's what gives them the autonomy, that they are basically always able to say, no, this I don't want to do, or to propose an alternative thing. And that's the only way you can work with people that are not actors, because in fact, it's the other way around. The actors would have to follow you, because they are there to follow these roles and these ideas from the directors. But the performers who are not professional actors, they can always say no, they can always repeal, they can always want to change the text and so on. So they have much more autonomy and much more participation in the process than a normal actor would have. Like, I mean, making the stereotypes. Of course, there are companies that work all together and they discuss all the things, and the actor have everything to say and they collaborate. But if we talk about these conservative hierarchic positions in the theater. I do a lot of workshops in different institutions. Like sometimes it's like an art institution for people from different fields. So sometimes I'm like doing workshop with musicians and visual artists together with performers. This is what I like the most, when it's interdisciplinary. Sometimes it's the school of expanded theater. For example, I teach in Bern, in the HKB in Bern, which is where they have a master of expanded theater. And there are this mixture of people from different fields, but also a lot of actors. So in general, what I do is to share these processes of how to create an archive, how to work on documentary material, how to perform an archive, how to develop a research over time, how to write a text based on interviews. These kind of workshops I do. So in a way to share a bit of my own methods, so to say. I never thought I would say method, because I don't have a method, but let's say my tools.